specifically for me, even for Daniel as well. Being our sales manager, he can obviously, answer any important things that people are wondering about. Because again, what I really want to do with all of this is I like, and something that you say a lot, Grant, is just pulling back the curtain and giving people the ability to see the inside ultimately of what we do. I really think that sort of approach is what gives people the clarity and understanding that's going to lead to their own success. Being able to see, okay, what actually happens? How do these businesses actually operate? How does sales interact with getting us the towards our goals that we've gotten towards our success as well. So I'm still going to wait a couple minutes just to make sure any last people can come in pretty much. Caleb, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yourself?
I'm doing good. I feel like I haven't spoken to you for a little while over
It's
Zoom, but
been
hope
what?
hope all is doing good.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to have got that closer position. I've been putting a bit of work in role playing with Shiraz. I don't know if he's in this call or not, but
Oh,
I'm looking forward to
have you two been
progressing and
doing calls together?
yeah, getting the role plays in. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. He's been so keen to just
yeah,
get
yeah,
things going. So I'm glad that you guys are doing that together. And that actually is something I did want to mention with everyone on here is no matter what sort of position you're in, if you're still just only doing DM setting, if you are, moving into that closer role as well, just making sure that we're constantly training and practicing is extremely important. And it's not a matter of as soon as you finish doing any sort of one-on-one training, whether it would have been with Gav or with Omar, who actually has since left our company. He's moved on to do his own thing. But basically, any of that one-on-one training that we've been doing, that's not where it ends because, it just because you've done that doesn't mean, okay, I've succeeded, done, I'm closing now. Training is ever present no matter what you're doing, and it's something that you're always going to be doing no matter what position you're in. Even the top sales guys in the world, in the highest paying corporate gigs, they're all doing so much training. And Grant would be able to vouch for that in the top sales positions, the guys that are the best are the ones that are doing the most training. It does not matter how much they've already done, how many years they've been in the game. If anything, they're probably doing more than the people that just started because they are just absolute killers and they know what it takes to actually be as effective as possible within sales. So this even means, when you're driving your car, listen to sales podcasts, read a lot of books that are going to be, focusing on developing your skills as well. These are things that I do every single day. I don't spend my time just, wasting it doing things that don't contribute to my own success. It does not matter how long I've been in the game. No matter what, there's going to be someone that is better than I am. And there's going to be someone that's better than you are, and they're doing things that you're not currently doing. So you have to be in that position where you're always training. And this goes to absolutely everybody. You always have to be just consistently training. That's the most important thing. So, um, cool. I think I'll be able to make a bit of a start now. I believe everyone that's going to join is in. And if they're not, then they'll have to catch up and try and understand what we're up to. So basically, I'll just share my screen for you all really quick. And this might be something that some of you are already familiar with. But basically, this is sort of it's an adapted version of a framework called the closers framework. And this specifically is a sort of framework that can be loosely applied to basically any sales conversation that exists. And this is why it is so effective because applying this to what we're doing here at Blue Ocean Closes with our offers, whether it be in future roles that you end up getting into through High Ticket Bridge. Again, High Ticket Bridge is an insanely valuable resource that we've got. So that's always worth looking at those external roles there. And any position that you end up getting in, a kind of framework like this is going to be used no matter what. So if you get given any sort of script for any different offer, product, service in any industry, there is going to be some sort of adaptation of this closes framework. So something like this, it can be applied to absolutely everything. And the reason that we actually do want to use frameworks in the first place is it's very self-explanatory, but sometimes I have to simply repeat it that it makes it predictable. Having a predictable outcome in a very unpredictable environment like sales is the key to succeeding. That is, I can't stress enough how important it is to have predictable processes to actually give you predictable outcomes because otherwise you're shooting shit at the wall and it is absolutely impossible to be able to replicate different outcomes with all different types of people with different services with different offers if you don't have a predictable set of systems and processes that you run through. And again, this applies to DMs, it applies to actual sales calls as well. So the closest framework. So this is, I'm not going to try and pretend that I've just created this either. This was created by Alex Hormozy. He does talk about it a lot. I feel like that using absolute, masters of the game like him, using what he creates and applying it to certain things, that is ultimately the way that you're going to get, as much success as possible because you're using frameworks and you're using systems that have been tried and tested. And something like this has been tried and tested and is very, very good. And it is actually how I initially created our versions of the sales scripts as well, and all the changes we make to it also is going to have some sort of correlation to this specific framework in the first place. So closes stands for clarify the purpose, label their goal and problem, overview their past pain, sell the vacation, explain away their concerns, reinforce their decision, and set expectations. So this set process again in your while you're actually listening to me talk about this, I highly suggest taking some notes with some little golden nuggets along the way as well, because this again can be applied to DM setting, it can be applied to actual sales calls as well. In any kind of situation when you're talking to people, this can be applied directly, and you're going to start noticing specifically as well when you're at different parts of this process because sometimes the letters might get jumbled a little bit just based on the direction of the conversation, but there will always be a category in which any sentence and any question and answer can fit into directly. So the first is clarifying their purpose, and this is probably one of the most important things because in sales we need to identify where someone's currently at and where they want to get to. So if we don't actually know where they want to get to, we're going to be spending so much time explaining all this different information and all these different things without even knowing where they want to get to in the first place. And as a result, they're not going to be receptive to anything you say. So the number one thing is to just get a bit of understanding about why they've joined the call or why they've actually reached out on the DMs or what it is specifically they're looking for. And this can be done very overtly. You can simply say, hey, I just to make sure that we've got clarity, why you actually on this call today, or whatever sort of speech conventions you've got, you can make it extremely casual as well. Be like, hey man, awesome, it's very good that you joined the call today. Just to make sure that we're on the same page together, can you just explain to me really quick, what you're actually looking to get out of this today, just to make sure we're on the same page. You can be very casual about it. You don't have to make it like, oh, this is a set prompt that I have to say, but just get the conversation going, and you can lead into that clarity just from that conversational sort of approach that you've got. So in a DM setting situation, that is when you can ask a number of different questions. It doesn't have to be a set answer that you're searching for, set questions that you're actually asking, but just saying like, what sort of roles are you looking to try and get into? What is your long-term goals in high ticket sales? What brings you into this kind of industry? What is this industry going to do for you in the future? Just simple things like that can be so so powerful because then we actually know the North Star, because that's again the most important thing. If we know somebody's North Star, we can give them the compass to get them there. So This ensures that you're aligned right from the beginning. And then every single thing that happens after that, you know there's a purpose behind it and you know there's a direction in which you're actually heading towards as well. So L is label their goal and problem. So this is where we get more detailed with exactly what is currently preventing them from getting from here to here. What is in the middle that's actually stopping them? What limitations are getting in the way? What things are actually getting in the way from them getting into that future version of themselves? Because we don't actually know what that is. It might be as simple as they just need to keep doing the same thing and it's a matter of time. They're trying the same thing 20 times in a row and they can't change their mindset belief they have about a certain component of sales or whatever offer it might be. So this is identifying what is their actual goal. So like where does somebody want to be 12 months from now? And this is when we can really get that crystal clear clarity over what somebody wants to be like in 12 months. What sort of person do they want to be? And one of the most powerful things with high ticket sales is being able to sell a transformation. We're not selling just a product or a service. You are selling them a transformation into a new version of themselves. Because right now, in their current situation in their life, they're probably, reasonably happy. Maybe they're completely miserable. That doesn't matter. What matters is that what they want to be like in the future is different to what they currently are doing. So if we get the clearest picture possible of what kind of individual do they want to be in 12 months, whether that be some financial goals, whether it be personal growth goals, it can be a different range of things, but we want to paint what sort of individual do they want to be 12 months from now. One of the most important things with that as well, I'll just add, is that getting some kind of financial goal as well is basically one of the most important things also. So once you do get that little financial goal where you say, hey, I want to be making 10K per month, that's when you can attach emotion to it. So the emotion side of things that does lead into O, with overview their past pain. But if you can attach things like you want to make 10K per month, okay, how would your parents feel about you if you were making 10K per month? How would they view you? What sort of what would your status increase amongst your friends if you were making 10K per month? How would your siblings see you? How would your church view you? How would your community value you as an individual if you were in that position where you can, contribute to support with money or whatever it might be, attaching those feelings to it because it's not just a financial number that gives them happiness. It's the feelings and that are actually associated with it in the first place. So this with this part here with labeling their goal and their problem, this is where we can also uncover their real barrier as well. And by uncovering the real barrier, that is simply just finding out like, okay, what is the thing that's stopping them from getting there as well? Because that again is going to lead us into overviewing their past pain, because that's when we get into more detail about it. So you can simply say to them, look, like what do you think is the number one thing that's preventing you from becoming this? You don't have to try and play any sort of fancy kind of like tactics. You just simply ask them, what is the number one thing that's preventing you from getting to your goals in 12 months from now? What is the number one thing? And if they say it's a couple things, say, even if it is two or three things, you'll be able to find out what actually is the number one thing. Because sometimes people don't even know what that number one thing is. They'll have two or three reasons. They don't know exactly which one's actually preventing them. So you can just keep asking some questions, and that is probably when you will transition into the overview past pain, because this is where we'll really find out what are their main pain points. What are the things that they're tired of, that they're angry about, that they're sad about, they're confused about, all the different things that are actually preventing them from getting towards what they want in their life. So this can just be what they've already tried. Maybe someone's gone and spent 15K on a course that didn't deliver them anything. I can see Grant nodding his head there. He knows all about this. He hasn't spent 15K on a course, but he knows what situation that would be if you were that kind of individual that's gone and spent a whole lot of money. They haven't gotten anything out of it. So this doesn't just apply to
Ten.
courses. Maybe someone has spent, you know, a year in a job that they hate, thinking that that's actually going to lead them towards their goals, and they're just on a hamster wheel, just doing the same thing again and again. So what the next part of that is basically what is it that they're tired of experiencing as well. So if we've figured out that okay, they've tried this, they've bought this course, they've done this mentorship, they've been watching all of these videos, and they still haven't moved the needle. They're still in the same position. And a lot of the time, it is just some things as simple as their own mindset is stopping them from getting there. Sometimes that's it, and that's what we actually find out on these calls as well, is what is the key thing that's preventing them from getting there. And usually their primary pain points, these are going to be the things that gives us that total clarity in what it is exactly. So this can often like later on in the call, this can give you that fuel to position whatever you're selling specifically as the best alternative that can remove all of these different pain points. Because for some people, it might be having to spend, you know, $10,000 on a course. There's a whole bunch of excuse me, there's a whole bunch of generic content that is purely theory based. It might just feel like a complete waste of time for them. So being able to explain away any of those problems that they've had in the past can be extremely powerful. And being able to find out exactly what those are, that is going to give you all of that fuel later on. And I say it to everyone, but on every single call that you've got, pen and paper beside you is extremely important, because otherwise you're going to have to rely on your own memory to figure out what little details they've spoken about that you can then use later on. Whereas if you just write down every single little thing, you've got a whole sheet of fuel right beside you that you can use to basically help them get to that decision. Because again, it's not about them just getting a yes or a no. It's just getting them to make a decision. That's one of the most important things. So you want to detach from the actual outcome, just get them to make a decision. Because if it's a no, that's okay. That means they're not suitable for us in the first place. It is purely about getting them to make a decision. And if they make a decision, that's a win for us. So S is for sell the vacation. So this is where we've spoken with them about the different problems they've been facing, them actually the sort of person they want to be 12 months from now, the things that are preventing them from getting to that 2.0 version of themselves. So this is where we paint that dream outcome, and this is where we can attach the different outcomes towards them to be able to get them into that new version of themselves. And one of the most important things with this that I see as a massive mistake that a lot of beginner closers, again, this can still be applied to DM setting, but it's just going to be formatted a bit differently and it's going to be in less detail. But getting into the semantics and details of exactly what all the nitty gritty details are. And obviously, that stuff is important, but you often will get trapped by people on calls where if they're resistant to buying in the first place, if they don't have that complete trust in you, that they're going to try and force you into all the little details about your offer that you're selling, the products that you're selling, to try and get you to almost like to try and justify it as much as possible, or in hopes that they can sort of get all the power and get the leverage in the call, whereas you are the one with the frame. So again, this is kind of speeding ahead a little bit with, you know, some more advanced techniques, but if we focus on selling the vacation and making sure that we're painting the picture of that successful outcome for them, this is actually what's going to let us be able to position our offer as the thing that's going to get them there. Because as soon as people get into all of the nitty-gritty details, which again, it's the airport security, we want to sell the vacation, not the airport security. That's when all of people's entire brain and focus is going to be on all the minute details that don't actually matter. And that also leads into expectation setting, which I'll be able to get into. But basically, if people start attaching to all these little details, that's taking away our power and our frame in the call to be able to say, hey, let's think about the outcome here. When at any point, if you're trying to achieve anything in your life, if you want to become ripped in the gym, you have to train every day for 2 years. But people don't want to think about all of those days spent in the gym getting there. It is purely about that outcome of yourself. That's why you keep going back and you keep going and doing rep after rep. It is to get to that outcome. So on sales calls, oftentimes, if we over attach the semantics and the details, we're just giving them a whole lot of pain to think about. If you were sitting there and you were trying to become a new version of yourself and get a certain outcome in your life, and all you're talking about is the pain associated with getting there, do you still think that you're going to be very eager to put your credit card down and spend $5,000 to experience pain? Probably not. So that's why we want to steer it completely away from all of the little details. And that is something you need to be aware of, that people can naturally try and draw you towards the little details and the nitty gritty to get as much information as possible and stop thinking about that dream outcome. And this can be different across a range of different people based on how much if how sure they are of themselves, how much trust they have in you, how much trust they have in the industry, or just their own belief towards actually succeeding in their life as well. So a good example of this basically with an offer like ours, if we're helping people get into high ticket sales roles, we don't want to be able to sit and try and sell people and try and sell them on the fact that, yeah, every day you have to do 4 hours of work and you have to do a million role plays and you have to watch 50 hours of content across YouTube and everything, because people know that that's associated with it, but they don't. For them, it is about getting to that outcome. What's going to get them to that outcome the quickest? So if you focus on all these little details and all of that pain, people are just going to sit there and be like, oh, this doesn't sound very great. The reason that is marketing 101, and marketing is sales at scale. That is marketing. So the reason that some of these companies and courses and whatever can charge as much as they do for their products and services is because they are absolute masters at selling people the outcome. They're not selling people on all of the pain and hard work and time spent doing all the stuff. It is selling them that outcome, and that's what they're absolute masters at doing. So that leads us into E, which is explain away their concerns. So this is when you can, there's sort of two parts of this. So this is where you can, within the S part of the framework, this is where you can actually pre-handle objections as well. So by this, I basically mean that you can clarify and focus on key points that they might bring up to be able to prevent objections that might come after that. And naturally, again, we don't want to shy away from objections because they're going to happen no matter what. Objections are a natural component of every single sales call, and it's probably where your skills are going to be the most relevant, is dealing with objections, because there's a correct way of doing it and there's an incorrect way of doing it. So with explaining away people's concerns, this can be an example of this would basically be saying that while you're explaining the offer that we've got, or you're pitching, or whatever it might be, is simply mentioning the key things that people often complain about. And again, this comes from role playing. You know for a fact that if someone is say if you're selling a marketing package to a business, for example, you know for a fact, actually a better example, I'll just use our program in the first place. So people know that when they come into this space, that there's a lot of courses and shit offers out there. So people don't want to come into something, receive no help, be there left ignored, not getting any sort of guidance, and three, not actually being able to get the outcome they want. People don't want to get stuck on the hamster wheel and just constantly buy courses. That is what the people are scared of. They actually want outcomes from the money that they've put in. And I think the number one is human support. It's actually being people feeling like that they're helped. So An example of how you'd actually use this when you are selling the vacation or pitching is basically saying to them, so the reason that we do things in this way is because by having people there to support you every single step of the way, that makes sure that you don't get stuck in XYZ position that's going to prevent you from achieving XYZ in your life. You want to associate it with what their concern might be and really be able to explain to them in detail how we actually prevent that being a problem for them experiencing the exact same problem again. We do things differently to avoid that from happening. So when you do actually get to the point where people might have objections, this is when we can already have dealt with a whole bunch of them before they might bring them up. And then if they do bring up objections, this is when we can readdress them and say, yep, 100%. So, like I was mentioning before, when I was explaining things, that's why we do X, Y, Z to be able to provide that support to you. So, was there anything else specifically that you were concerned with that you were not sure about that I can explain for you? And that's when again you re-explain, you re-enter the call, and there's a very common sort of well, it's not very common, but there's a well-known strategy basically with objection handling specifically that is called re-entering. So this is basically where if someone says you get to explain away their concerns, objection handling, you get to this point and people say, okay, yeah, cool, that all makes total sense. Yeah, leave it with me. I'm going to think about it for a little bit, and then I'll be able to get back to you. That is a classic objection handle right there. But what we need to do in this situation is find out their concerns and explain away their concerns. This is the most important thing because if people knew that this was 100% going to get them towards their goals, they would buy it straight away. They wouldn't be sitting there having to think about it. There's still things that they're not sure about that you haven't articulated to them properly, or that you haven't done a good enough job explaining for them what exactly that is. So, an example of this would be if someone says, oh, like I just need to think about it. Get it back to me. You'd sit there and say 100%, man. And this, again, this is where you have a push and pull with them as well, saying 100%, man. Like I totally understand that you need to think about this. And I highly suggest that you do that for a couple days because, I just need to find out first, basically, what it is specifically that's preventing you from actually figuring out what's going to get you towards your goals, man. So I highly suggest that you think about it. And what is it specifically that you're still a little bit concerned about? So I can write it down in an email for you and send that through. So then in these next few weeks and months when you're ready to make that transition, that you've got all the information possible to be able to do that. So notice when I just said that, I prompted the person to give me information about what's preventing them from doing it. And I was also encouraging them to think about it. I was telling them exactly what they wanted to hear. The wrong way of doing that would be sitting there and saying, okay, like, why do you need to think about it? And then they're going to get defensive and say, oh, because, I need to make decisions in my own time. Fair enough. Some people need to do that, but we don't want to force people into doing things a certain way. We want to tell them what they want to hear and then get the information as well. So if we sit and say to someone who says, I need to think about this, and you say 100%, I highly suggest that you think about this. I think that's a great idea. And to make sure that when in a few weeks and months' time, when you are ready to make that transition, that you've got all the information possible to be able to make the best educated decision possible. What else specifically about what I've said are you still a little bit concerned about or not sure if it's actually going to be a right fit for you? And then they're going to articulate exactly what it is that's actually concerning them. Or if they don't, that's when you can just completely you just keep agreeing with them and say, "Yep, 100%." Like what else specifically? Like was it more of the money side of things? Was it the actual process of it? Is it you not actually being sure if it's going to get you towards your goals? Just being supportive of them with their objections. And it's counterintuitive because it's easy just to get them defensive and say, why do you want to do that? You get angry, you get frustrated with them. They've 5 times in a row, they've said, oh, I just need to think about it, I just need to think about it. You can't get defensive and have them get defensive either because that creates resistance. People won't anymore think that you're there to help them. They'll think that you're there to take their money. And that's the last thing that we ever want, is to have people feel like we simply want their money. So that is basically objection handling. And again, before I move into this next part here, you guys all have the resources to be able to practice doing this. So for all you guys that are, actually starting to do closing, Daniel is there to be able to help you with this. You can do role plays, you can role play with each other. This is to make sure that you've got that approach completely down pat when you're actually going to be on those calls as well. Because if you do objection handling 50 times and then you get on some closing calls, that's going to just be automated for you. You won't even have to think about it. You won't even have to think, oh, I need to take this approach, I need to take that approach. It just becomes second nature for you. And ultimately, sales is a second language. It is something that we want to just have autonomous in us, that we can just continually do without even having to think heaps about. And we're always obviously going to be wanting to improve, but it does become just second nature for you. So this part here is reinforcing their decision. And this kind of goes into setting expectations as well. But this is where you basically want to just give them that final confirmation of like, this is the right decision for them overall. So this can just be saying like, this is if you feel like that they're just a millimeter away from actually going ahead and saying yes, you say to them, look, like, this based on what you've told me, like, I think this is going to be perfect for you, because you've had XYZ problem and these are the issues you are facing. And finally, there is something here that's actually going to let you overcome this stuff. So let me just explain real quick about our other client, Peter, who came on board with us. And basically, he shared these same problems as what you've got. And by coming on board with us and doing that work closely with us, he was able to overcome it because he had that support. He had the resources available to him. It was everything that he needed. He had the opportunities externally through High Ticket Bridge. He had the skill set, but he simply needed the opportunities. And that's exactly what he was able to do. And then this is I've spoken to Grant quite a lot about this as well, but using yourself as a sort of like testimonial as well, like saying to people, hey, like, I've been in your exact position before. I know how it feels when you're sitting there, you're lost, you don't have direction, you're not sure what strategy is actually going to help you in the long term. You simply say that to them and you say, "Hey, I've been in your position." Because at the end of the day, people are going to look towards somebody who has been in their situation, that understands it and has been able to overcome it. That is how you find guidance. That is what I continually do on a regular basis with people that are ahead of me. I'll look at them and say, okay, do they actually understand where I've been? Do they know exactly how it feels to be in that situation? And if they do, more often than not, you're going to trust them a whole lot more because they've got context, and that is one of the most important things. So any sort of relatability that you can find with people is going to help reinforce their decision at the end of the day. It doesn't even have to be exactly the same thing as them. Like, it can just be simply having some kind of common ground with them in the first place. Because again, you might be talking to people that are a whole lot older than you, a whole lot younger than you, from different countries. It's just finding that common ground and being like, yeah, 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, 6 months ago, I was in your exact situation. I didn't know exactly what would actually get me towards my goals. Grant can speak on this as well. A guy was trying to sell me into a 10K course, but I just felt weird about it. And, I know how it feels to just have somebody there that's trying to take my money that doesn't actually care about me, because we care. And again, it's easy for us to say, oh, we care. But at the end of the day, if we wouldn't even be here in the first place if we didn't care to some extent. That's exactly how it is. Like, it's plain and simple. We do care about people, and that is why we even spend time on these calls in the first place and in sales, is because some part of us, even though we do have a driver of money or whatever it might be in your life, we do care about other people on a fundamental level. That is why we do this. even if we care about the person on Zoom just a little bit, we do care a whole lot about our family. And that's why we're doing this. We're there to support our family. We're there to support our friends. We're doing this to support other people. So it's drawing all of that into the call and actually caring about the outcomes for an individual. Because you know that if you get them success, that might mean that they can give their kids a better life. How good would you feel about yourself if you can sit there and give someone a better life, put their kids through a better education, be able to support their community more, be able to make donations to charities? There's all these different things that we are able to give people by giving them these opportunities and actually caring about them. And this also means that for some people, we have to tell them no. It's not always about getting them to say yes to doing what we want. If we truly think that this isn't going to be something that helps them, we are doing them the biggest favor possible by not taking their money and telling them, no, I don't think this is suitable for you. You're probably doing something that 10 other companies would never ever do for them. If you can actually be that person that swallows your pride and your ego and says, hey, I don't think this is suitable for you. This isn't something that's actually going to help you. I don't think that you're in the situation mentally and emotionally that's going to be able to get you there, if I'm being honest. Just being completely honest and transparent with people is the most effective thing you can possibly do to maintain your own moral compass, to feel good about yourself, to sleep well at night. And that goes completely hand in hand for being able to help people positively, giving them the outcomes that's going to give them that success in the long term. It doesn't have to always be a yes, it can also be a no. So this this goes into setting expectations. And again, I'm very conscious of time here, and I'm trying not to ramble too much. But basically, setting expectations. This is purely like systems and processes related. This is to make sure that after you get off the sales call, whatever offer service it might be in, that you are explaining clearly what happens next. Because again, and this is me speaking on myself here, I've done courses in the past where I've spent a lot of money, and after I came on, I had no idea what was happening next. I was sitting there waiting, I'd spent money, and I was like, I've got no idea what's going on. Like, are they going to reach out to me? What do I have to do? What's happening? And then you start getting that buyer's regret. You start thinking, oh shit, like, have I been scammed? Are they just going to take my money? Is this even going to help me? You start losing that faith and that trust and that feeling of being hot when you were right there ready to go on the call. So this is simply saying to them, hey, we've got, some different time zones working with us. That means that they're going to reach out to you as quickly as possible. They're probably asleep right now. Ha ha. I don't want to call them and wake them up. Ha ha. This is something where it just happens 6 to 12 hours. We'll be able to reach out to you. I'd rather tell you right now that that's what happens instead of leaving you not saying anything, scared to tell you that that's what happens, and then you aren't even sure what happens next, and then you get scared and then you leave. That's the last thing we want. So the support side of things is probably the number one always. No matter what we are selling, any service, any product, human support is going to be the number one most important thing out of absolutely anything. In a world of AI, with all this automation, with all of these different technology, digital products and services, human support is the differentiator with absolutely everything. So being able to focus on, okay, this is the human support you've got access to. This support team is dedicated to you specifically. You can speak to us anytime on WhatsApp. And that's what I always say to every single one of you guys. Message me on WhatsApp at any time. I'm never ever going to prevent anybody from simply reaching out and asking questions. Even though Daniel is, sales manager here and he's the guy that is leading the ship with a lot of this, you can always message me. You don't necessarily have to feel like that you can only talk to me if you're a certain level in this company. It does not matter whatsoever. Message me at any time that you need whatsoever. So, um, this is a little bit here, and I can also send this document to all of you guys. I'll actually do that right now. I'll send a link to this in the Zoom chat so you can all use it. Sweet. I've just sent that through there. So use this document and just use it as a little guide for you as well. So basically applying this to closing and appointment setting is going to vary a little bit if I'm just summarizing. So it is up to you to basically put that practice in to be able to master this kind of approach and use a framework like this because it is going to be 100% dependent on you how good you actually get at executing this. You can have the best framework in the world, but if you don't execute on it, it's going to mean absolutely nothing. So it is up to you to put that practice in, do those role plays, and make sure that you can just simply master something like this. Because again, this is going to help you permanently. And that's what I've got written here. It does not matter what sort of service industry niche you're in. This is something that's going to help you for your entire life in any service, any offer, any industry, because it's effective and it works and it's predictable. So you guys can have a look at this document now that you've got it. Just go over little bits, make any edits that you want to it as well that helps you understand it. If you even use a version of our script and then make edits to it based off this framework that helps you understand things, gives you that extra clarity and just makes it a more digestible sort of approach for you. I highly recommend doing that. And again, for you guys that are closing Daniels that'll help you do it. For anybody else, again, you can just reach out to me or you can bounce ideas off each other as well. We're all in this together. We've all got each other to be able to help each other navigate everything and be able to learn and develop our skills. So that is it from me with the actual with the content here. And now with our last 15 minutes that we've got is Q&A. So I do speak to some of you guys on Zoom a little bit, but for anybody here at all, it can be any of you guys, if you have any questions specifically for myself or for Daniel as well, simply yell out if you've got any that are recorded there. So does anybody have specific questions for us at all to be able to answer? No, everyone's feeling confident. Oh, here we go. Katie's on the chat. So Katie said, how to overcome, I don't want to invest into a mentorship. I just want to work. Reply in the DMs after a good conversation with plenty of value built. So that's a great question. And this is specifically about appointment setting. So a question like this is often going to come up if somebody feels like that they actually have the skill set to be able to land some of these roles. So the first part of this is understanding, okay, does this individual actually have the skill set? Or are they simply just saying this? So again, and write this down as I say it as well. The first thing that you can then say is awesome. And again, notice how I'm encouraging them to respond. I'm validating what they're saying. Awesome. That's absolutely amazing. What training specifically have you done in the past and what qualifications do you have? Ask them that and I'll write this down in the chat. Awesome. What training have you done and what qualifications do you have? So then after we say that, there's gonna be a number of different responses as well. If they are saying something along the lines of, I've done a bit of training, but I haven't necessarily got any experience at all, for example, that's when you can say, like, yep, that's okay. That's no dramas at all. Do you think that you are going to, or what sort of role are you looking to get into that you believe you'll be able to land with your current skill set? I'll think of a better way of saying that. What kind of roles do you think you can land with that skill set? Because the reason that we're even doing this is because we want to find out what is more of a suit for them. So with our specific offers, we've got our mentorship one-on-one offer, and we've also got our high ticket bridge offer. So this is where we want to find out, okay, is this individual experienced? do they actually have the ability to land a role if we get them into high ticket bridge and they look external? Do they actually have the skill set to do that? Because if they do, then awesome. We can focus on that primarily, and that's when we can say to them, 100%, we're not gonna try and sell you on a mentorship. You've got some really solid skills and experience already. We have access to a very high quality network. Is that something that you're interested in? Would you like our help getting introduced to some of these different companies? Even a frame like that makes it feel like, oh, okay, I get exclusive access because of my skill set that I've already got. So that's on that side of things. If we're looking into the mentorship course side of things, again, we don't want to fight an uphill battle for people and try and sell them on something that's not actually going to help them in the first place either. So what I mean by that is if someone is in this situation they where they do need actual skill development, they do need that experience, they want help from scratch because they are complete beginners, we still don't want to fight them. We just want to make them aware that, okay, if you want to get to XYZ and you want to make six figures a year as a closer, more often than not, you will need either the skill set or the experience to do that. And then you say to them, hey, I think it would be irresponsible of me to put you in front of these different companies if you don't have the skill set and experience yet to land a six-figure role. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to sit here and convince you that that's going to be possible. So, to be honest, I don't think the 1.5K offer is very suitable for you because that would be a waste of your money. On our mentorship side of things, if we do have a one-on-one with you, this makes sure that we can actually get you up to speed and get you the outcomes that are going to be possible for you, and you still get access to high ticket bridge. That sort of approach is simply just saying, this is more suitable for you and here's why compared to this. And that is the beauty of having our two offers now. It's because no matter what the individual is, we've got something that's going to fit for them. We don't have to try and fight them to get on one certain offer. There is no harm whatsoever in saying, hey, I don't think this is suitable for you, but I think this is suitable for you, and simply just saying that to them so they understand, okay, they're actually here to help me with what is right for me. They're not going to try and sell me on a course if it's not suitable for me. They're not going to try and give me access to high ticket opportunities if I don't even have the skills and experience to be able to land them in the first place. We don't even need to think about the money side of things at all. We need to think about what is going to help this individual the most. What is the thing that's actually going to get them towards their goals the most efficiently? So I hope that's been helpful, Katie, because basically from that, what I'm actually just trying to say is that we can fit whatever we're doing to any kind of individual. We don't have to try and battle people to convince them to join, our one-on-one personalized training, because we've got our high ticket bridge offer as well that's separate. So I feel like I can see Grant there. You've probably got a few things to mention. I feel like. Do you have any questions at all, Grant? I feel like you've often got some good insights just from the context that you've had over the past few weeks and months, and I think people would be very helped by that as well. Grant, by the way, he has been in sales for a long time. He's currently in solar, and he understands sales, better than a lot of people here. So he's going to be a good one to be able to chat with.
Well, I appreciate that, and yeah, no, this has been great because it definitely going through that kind of closer framework is like you said, that will be the case no matter what it is you're doing. And I do love the fact that there are two offers, and like you said, we could find a place for just about anybody who was looking to get into this business. Let's say, I came across you because of the way you were doing things, and because it was different, and I had an opportunity to see some other things that weren't done so well. So I'm just really grateful to be kind of learning and bringing skill at the same time. And I say there's always new things to learn, right? So yes, I've been dealing with people for a lot of time just because I'm old and I've done lots of stuff. But at the end of the day, like this is just a great opportunity to yeah, work with some people who are trying to get into the industry because yeah, I was at the point where I was frustrated. Like if I came across something like high ticket bridge a year ago, the position I'd be in now would be fantastic. Because there's just you just take so much time to sift and sort and try to figure out what's going on out there. Somebody who's new to the space, the remote closing high ticket space, it could be quite daunting. So I love this approach, how we can kind of say, hey, you know what? We'll kind of guide you, give you the check boxes. And a lot of people don't realize it, but check boxes are great. So
Yeah.
no, I say this is just a fantastic. I'm just glad to be here. So
Awesome. Appreciate that, Grant. And a sort of conversation that that me and Grant have also had is that the reason that we don't have an outrageous amount of content and trainings and everything to watch
yeah.
is because the end of the day, I know on a fundamental level that the thing that's going to actually get you to that success that you're chasing in your life and that ability to master sales skills, it's the doing. It's doing the doing. It's not watching 20 hours of content about sales. If I had to tell you right now to watch 30 hours worth of sales podcasts and training, I can still guarantee that if you got onto a call, you'd probably freeze because there's an overabundance of information out there. Information is absolutely everywhere on the internet. If information and pure content was the thing that led people to success, everybody would be making six figures. I know there's a lot of people there that are in the industry that have probably spent hundreds of hours just watching content like they wouldn't believe just to make them feel like that they're doing something. But in reality, they're not doing anything. And that is why I've such a focus on giving content and information that's going to be useful, but not giving you so much that you just get confused and that you're oversaturated because there is such it's such an information heavy space where there's all these people making all these videos and all of this content and everything happening, but at the end of the day, until you actually do the doing, it's not going to help you. So that's basically it. And just before I wrap up in about 5 minutes as well, Daniel, I was just I think what would be really helpful for a lot of people here would be what do you think the number one mistake that people make when they're on like sales calls? So when you're say doing any training or even with yourself, what was one of those things that you really struggled with? Caleb, I can see you raised your hand as well there to ask a question after this potentially.
Yeah, sorry to go back to the previous topic. I just wanted to ask another question if that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
I
Yeah.
just want to clarify, to buy the mentorship course and the high ticket bridge is now 2,000 and just high ticket bridge by itself is 1,500. Is that right? USD.
So the high ticket bridge side, correct, is 1,500. The mentorship, one-on-one training, all of that is now 4,000. So all of
4,000.
you guys in here, you've come in at an absolute bargain. And I know that I think Abbas, you've come in on a low ticket offer of $100 for high ticket bridge. So you've also saved 15 times your money by coming in when you did. So everybody here has come in at an insane discount, very fortunately, just from pure luck and timing. So I commend you all for that. So yeah, it's now 4K for our main offer. That's 1.5K for high ticket bridge. And on that main offer, mentorship one-on-one, that includes high ticket bridge. That's not separate at all. You still get that. That is just much more of a hands-on approach. So we can help you much more specifically. I can jump on one-on-one with people and all of that because, if people are spending that ticket price, that means we have more resources to be able to help people fundamentally. So, does that answer your question, Caleb, now?
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Thanks. Do you mind sending me the updated Stripe payment things because currently I've only got the
For sure,
um
man. Yeah. And
yeah,
Daniel, you're probably wondering, oh, since when's Caleb closing? Basically, Caleb's just made that transition. He's starting appointment setting and everything, which is absolutely awesome. So I'll make sure you've got all of that. I was meaning to do this morning, but I didn't
that's
wake
right.
up too much long before actually taking this call. So I'll get that all to you, man. I'll make sure that you've got everything there, and be able to get things going, which is exciting. And yeah, Daniel, I'll just ask you real quick that question. What's the number one mistake you see like most people make? It's the most common when they're actually closing.
Yeah, that's a great one, Ed. I would say one thing, even to kind of go back to what you were saying earlier, like on calls, it's of course important to be making notes on the call, but prior to the call, like what I'll always do personally and something that I always recommend is get an idea of exactly what the prospect said on the form or either in the DM conversation because the more you know going into the call, you can start to craft your questions around exactly the prospect you're talking to rather than just going off a generic script where you're just reading line by line. Like when you come into a call with information and actually knowing stuff about a prospect, the questioning and the things you ask them, they're going to know, hey, this person's actually here to help me. They've genuinely done even research into me before I've had this call. And the more of a personal connection you can have with someone on that call, they're going to feel understood. They're going to be able to have trust with you. And yeah, I would say like before any call, always have a notebook there of just a couple points of like the key things that they've said to you. And then on the call, you're able to, of course, use your questioning around that. And then kind of to tie into that, it's really comes down to being present in the call. Like at the end of the day, I said this to a few people recently. Like if this was just a robotic thing where we're just reading off a script, like it'd be robots behind the screen doing these sales calls. But really, the job that I see, especially in Discovery, is like being present with the prospect, asking them questions based off exactly what they're telling you, and just not feel like you're just regurgitating something word for word. So I would say that's one of the biggest things, especially in Discovery, is present there for the prospect and genuinely asking them questions based off of what they're telling you as opposed to just being a robot.
Amazing. That's yeah, very, very valuable there. It's exactly that. If it was a matter of just telling people you know, XYZ sentences, there'd be artificial intelligence doing it at this point, which is probably not too far away. But honestly, I still wholeheartedly believe that human to human interaction, if anything, is going to become even more valuable and even more effective as things do get more robotic and influenced by artificial intelligence. Being able to speak to somebody one on one is absolutely massive. And just thinking about it, literally the other day, I got locked out of one of my accounts, and basically I was going through the whole process of online support, all this shit. And I was so frustrated because I couldn't get in front of an actual human. I was getting so frustrated. I couldn't find a number. I called a number. After I called the number, that redirected and said, "No, you need to do this online." And then I was just like, I was losing my mind because I wanted to speak to a human so badly. So yeah, that just goes back to that. Abbas, you've got a question as well.
It's not a question actually, it's just I want to share my first win since I joined the group. And first
Awesome.
of all, thank you for this insightful training and thank you for what you are offering us. This afternoon, actually, I got my first interview. So I was very happy about that. So then just wanted to share this win and say thank you for everything. I got a question, but the time has already gone. So just wanted to know how to sell yourself to a company or a business owner, how to handle the objection of not having previous experience, particularly.
That's a
That's
good
just all.
Yeah, that's a good
Exactly.
question, and congratulations for that as well. That makes me very, very happy that we've been able to
Oh,
help you. That's
thank,
absolutely awesome. So, yeah, just with these last few
thank.
minutes, basically, if you don't have previous experience, really focusing on the skills that you do have is going to be extremely helpful. So simply saying to them that you've had a lot of different, conversations with all different kinds of people online, Also, the English is a very important thing because I'm assuming that for you to be able to get into some of these really good roles, they are going to be primarily just English speaking roles to make good money as well. So for you, Abbas, it's going to be saying that you've got good English, that you've got perfect written and spoken English, which I believe you do have. It's very, very good. That is going to be a massive thing. And also just saying to them that you are committed and you're very, very motivated to do it because I know firsthand that the amount of people that I've spoken to that want certain roles, they want to get into different positions, but they have an ego and think that their skill set and their experience is the key thing that's going to get them that position. It's not true because they are often the ones that are lazy. They are complacent. Not always, but there's a lot of people that think that purely having the skill set and experience is going to carry them all the way to their success. But at the end of the day, it is about that commitment and motivation you've got and your ability to work hard. That's the number one thing. You want to say to them, say to these companies, you are a hard worker, you're committed, you're motivated, you have good English, like all these things that are assets that you've already got in your situation. And that is going to be super, super helpful for you. Just focus on what you can do and what you are effective and good at as well.
Great. That's perfect. That makes sense.
Awesome.
And thank you once again. We appreciate it.
No worries at all. Makes me very happy. That's it for this call, guys. I'm gonna have to run very, very soon, but I really appreciate everyone jumping on, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this every single week. I think it's gonna be great for everyone to catch up and just be able to continually keep that engagement with all you guys. And again, outside of these calls as well, if if anybody wants to connect and you want to role play with each other, I highly recommend doing that because that's going to be so helpful for you if you can just put that time in, just practicing as much as humanly possible and really just focusing on getting things done. Don't get stuck in that trap of just content binging. Actually do the work, do the doing. So that's it from me, guys. I really appreciate everything, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night and mornings. I think it's quite late for you, maybe, Caleb. So I'll let you go to bed, and
12 o'clock. Yeah,
everybody,
straight to bed.
everybody else, I hope you enjoy your days as well. And yeah, message me anytime if you got questions, and I'll be able to help you out. And yeah, I'll speak with you guys potentially next week again.
Nice one, Ed. Thanks for the time.
No worries. Appreciate it, guys. I'll see you later.
See you in a bit.